Hello all, very good evening. Thanks for joining the session. Seems to be I don't have the host access. So once I got the host access, then I'll share my screen. Yeah, I got the host access. Thanks a lot. Yeah, hope you are now able to see my screen. Yesterday, we have discussed about the course objective and course content, Spring Boot course content we have discussed. So as part of the course objective, we discussed what we're going to cover in this course. So Spring Boot, REST API design, and then microservices architecture, Spring Cloud, Docker, and Maven, Gradle, Timeleaf, Spring Security, 6.x, again, web application security, API security, Keycloak or WSO2, Docker, React.js integration, right? So from beginner level to the advanced level, we will see all these things. And also we'll integrate the Spring Boot with the MongoDB and then Spring Boot with the MySQL database using the Data JPA. And also we'll build the Spring Boot admin dashboard with the production ready features to know the health of the application. Is the application is now currently running fine or not? So we can see the health of it using the concept of actuators. And we will build one dashboard called Spring Boot admin dashboard. And also we'll do a unit testing for we're going to do an application, right? Using the Spring Boot and then Timeleaf. By applying the Spring Boot concepts, we're going to do an application and we're going to do the unit testing using the Marketo, and we'll use the Mark server and then, REST template, HTTP entity, web client, and Jacaco for the code coverage, SonarLint for the vulnerability scanning and all. So many more tools like Log4j, Logback, Postman, MobiXtem for the AWS EC2 instance connectivity. Apart from this, we also will use the microservices patterns and all is what we discussed yesterday, right? And also yesterday I have shown you the course content, Spring Boot 3.x course Spring Boot course content. So I just little modified it by including the Spring Boot 3.x features as well. So Spring Boot features and then the Spring Boot 3.x. This is not 3.0. We can say it as 3.x. Spring Boot 3.x features. We're going to see majorly 6 features were added in. Of course, more than 6 features were there, but major features are 6, which are very important in the interview's point of view. However, how to create the Spring Boot project, overview of it, and then Spring Boot application components, auto configuration, alternating the Spring Boot configuration, connection pooling, profiles concept, again, the data access layer implementation, service layer implementation of the transactions, controller layer implementation, vShopify platform application with the Timeleaf integration, right? So testing, unit testing, integration testing, and logging, then the actuators, production ready features, and Spring Boot with security, Spring Boot project with MongoDB integration, and then the Spring Boot with the Redis cache or Hazelcast cache integration, batching and then scheduling, Spring Boot project integration with the Apache Kafka, and then Spring Boot project deployment with the Docker, and Spring Boot project integration with the ELK stack. And finally, we'll discuss about the Spring Native as well. In Spring Native, we'll discuss the GraalVM. A beautiful concept has been introduced. Of course, it was earlier there, but it was introduced. Earlier, Spring Native was there, but in 3.x, this concept is introduced. It's a beautiful concept. It's a virtual machine, which will run on top of your Java virtual machine for the faster performance, for the faster execution of the Spring Boot applications. So this is what the Spring Boot course content we discussed yesterday. And Spring React Native will not be covered. Actually, I don't have the thought on it because first, let us cover the Spring Boot completely, and then time permits, we'll go with the Spring React, but I'm not sure. Yeah. So then let us see the microservices course content. But before going to this microservices course content, Let me showcase you the existing application. This is what the existing application, meaning which was implemented as part of the earlier batch. And the same application also we will implement again from the scratch. So if you can see the concept of the profiles we have applied here. So profile dev and then the profile QA. We have used the in-memory database and we have used the MySQL one. Then Docker file we have written, we Dockerized it, and we have done the unit testing, and we integrated it with the time leaf. You can see these are all the time leaf, static HTML pages where we added the time leaf, tags and all. We made it as a renderable component in the time leaf, and we have written these components like home controller, orders controller, and security, and then the service layers. In service layers, again, we implemented the transaction management, and we have the repository layer. In the repository layer, we have used the JPA repository. Spring Data JPA is what we have used, right? Lot of concepts, whatever the content we have discussed here. With this content, let us implement a project, a full-fledged project with that content. So that project looks like this. Localhost 5050. Yes, this is what the project. Here we have integrated it with the Spring Security. You can see here the Spring Security part. Yeah, this is what the Spring Security part. We Shopify platform. We Shopify platform security configuration. Again, I'll explain all these things. This is implemented using the Spring Boot 2.7, I believe. Let me check. I think 2.7. Yeah, 2.6, and then the JDK level. But we're gonna do it with the Spring Boot 3.1 or 3.2. I believe 3.1 as of today. And then we're gonna use the JDK 17. So when 3.1 and then JDK 17 will be in place, then the security components, the implementation of this security also little modified, more priority given for the reactiveness. So we will also discuss about the reactive, but in the weekend sessions at the end of our course, we'll discuss that. Okay. So transactions we implemented, security we implemented, and unit testing is what we have done. And we integrated it with the time leaf because we rendered in the time leaf, and then we deployed it as a Docker container. See, Docker file also we have written. I'll explain all these things, how to write, what to write, and all. The application looks like this. Let me log in. We Shopify for admin at the rate YOP mail.com. So probably the password is yes. Yeah, so you can see here. So this is the dashboard, which is completely rendered using the time leaf, where we have the wireframes actually. So if we can go here, we have the wireframes. So this static HTML wireframe, same wireframes, static HTML wireframes, we made them as a dynamic using the time leaf, and which will be rendered in the which will be rendered as part of the Spring Web MVC execution, right? So here you're gonna learn how we can use the static templates, static content to the dynamic content, and all these things, validations and all. There were a lot of validations also added. If you can see, for example, if you submit, so validations will execute, and it is printing the validation messages, right? And also proper exception handling was also there. If you can see the exception handling, I'm just showcasing you because whatever the Spring Boot concepts I have shown you in the content, those concepts we must and should implement in our project. One project we'll take and then we'll implement it. So I believe maybe in the next version of the code, the exception handling was there. there were a lot of branches we created with the improvements we have done. I can showcase that as well. So probably let me go to the GitLab. Just let me go to GitLab. Yeah, maybe let me go to the so this GitLab. Let me come till here. Shopify app.in. Okay, however, I can showcase you. There were otherwise, let me log in quickly and then showcase you. Just give me a moment. Just give me a moment. I'm now logging and then showcase you how the code has been, how the code has been put here and then how it will be. So just let me so go to these projects. Yeah, so you can see here. Shopify. Yes, this is the Shopify, and yeah, you can see bean validations, global exception handling, security, and timely farm handling. Right. Likewise, various branches created, and then we have handled the code separately in the various branches. So you can see the Shopify platform application. Probably we handle the exceptions here, or if not, we definitely have handled the exceptions in the microservice. So if we are not, probably we might have handled the exceptions in microservice for sure. However, the exception handling is also a typical part of your application implementations in real time. Most probably minimal, your code should be prone for the minimal errors when the QA testing is happening. So you need to handle the exceptions properly. You need to show the messages properly. However, we'll also discuss the data validations and then the exception handling. We're going to use the Spring JDK 1.8 features also while implementing to take the advantage of the null pointer handlings and all. However, so this is about the Spring Boot. And once the Spring Boot project is completed, then we will go for the microservices implementation. Lot of questions are coming for me. Definitely, I'll answer all your questions. Just to give me some time. What we're going to discuss and all, I'll explain. So just give me some time. When it comes to microservices, how this will be. So just let me discuss that points and then I'll come to your questions. So going back to microservices content, let me open this. Sorry, not this one. Yeah, this is the updated microservices content. So we're going to discuss the domain-driven design, DDD, with the bounded context. Without understanding of this principle, you can't understand the microservices concept, first of all. So in order to build the microservices, in order to develop the microservices, you need to know what is bounded context and what is domain-driven design. So this concept is very, very important and basis for understanding the microservices architecture and implementations. So we'll discuss this. Then we'll discuss the monolithic applications. So far, whatever we implemented, whatever I have showcased, whatever I have shown you, this is what the monolithic application, because only single process. In the single process, all the application features are running. So orders, customers, maybe the products, maybe the brands, categories, payments, shipping, lot of modules were here. Which are there in a single process execution. What I mean to say is, you can see here, when we start the Spring Boot application, you can see, see this, there is a process ID created. That means what? In a single process, all these applications are, all these modules or features are inside the single process. So if any of the issues will come in any of the module, and due to that issue, the process will be interrupted, then the other modules won't work. So this is called as what? Single point of failures. So an application is said to be monolithic application if all the modules of the application will be executing within the boundary of the application or within the process boundary of an application. So that application have the limitations like single point of failures, then we will go for the microservices architecture. So when we go for the microservices architecture, as you are at the learning level, so how to learn the microservices, how to become a professional in the microservices implementation. So we need to have a sound knowledge of the behind the scene of the microservices. That's where the domain-driven design with the bounded context, and then the monolithic applications understanding, then challenges in monolithic application, then microservices architecture, we will understand with the honeycomb analogy. Very, very important. This is not important for any interviews. This is not the topic of the interviews, but this is very, very important for you to understand the microservices architecture. Easily you can understand with this honeycomb analogy. However, we'll discuss, you can easily understand these concepts. So advantages of microservices architecture, then microservices characteristics and microservices principles. Everybody who is attending, who will attend the microservices sessions, everyone should have to know 2 principles and then 6 characteristics. 6 characteristics of the microservices and then the 2 principles of microservices along with this bounded context and then DDD. That's it. If you understand those 6 characteristics, 2 principles, and then this domain-driven design with the bounded context, enough. So that is nothing but microservices architecture. So how you will implement it, what technology you will take it, that is secondary. You can use Python, you can use .NET, you can use Java, no matter. But here the microservices is a concept you have to learn. Like REST is how the concept. Similarly, microservices is also a concept. It is a architectural style. So that's what you guys have to understand, the difference between the architectural pattern and then the architectural style. So going forward, all these things I'll explain. You can, I'll first familiarize you. Whatever the content I'm showcasing you may be very, very high level to you at this moment, but don't panic. Please just go through the content, because I have the plan without discussing the very basic stuff which is required for the Spring Boot. Without discussion of that, I don't go to the Spring Boot concepts directly. I don't go to Spring Boot concepts without discussion of the all prerequisites. In that all prerequisites, yesterday as we have discussed, object creation process in JVM, and then memory utilization, thread processing, concurrency, and then the convention over configuration paradigm, and paradigm versus pattern versus style, then class versus entity versus component. So these are all, we'll discuss, because few things will derive from the, UML or your system design concepts, and a few things will derive from the object-oriented concepts. So it's a mix of object-oriented concepts along with your data modeling concepts or your application modeling concepts. So which are very, very important or basic for understanding the Spring basically. So once you got this concept, then we'll go for the Spring Core. In Spring Core, we'll understand, as there is already an object creation process in the JVM. JVM will create the objects, right? Then why the Spring Core is required for us? What the benefits that we are getting with the Spring Core concepts? So we'll discuss the dependency injection and then the IOC pattern, right? So very, very important, dependency injection and then the IOC container, IOC pattern, very, very important. Of course, with the other concepts as well. I'll again explain the course content of the Spring Core when we start it. But what I would like to tell you is, if you don't know the terminology what I'm using now, please don't panic, because whatever the prerequisites I'll cover, meaning once after completion of this prerequisites only, I'll go for the Spring Boot content. So what are the prerequisites? Only CoreJava. If you know CoreJava, that is well and good. If you have the CoreJava 1.8 and then JDK 1.8 and then more versions, if you have the experience and the knowledge, that is more than enough for me. Okay. So the rest of the concepts which are required for the Spring Boot, to start the Spring Boot, I'll explain. I'll give the notes. An in-depth concept I'll explain, not not simple concepts. Definitely, you will see the depth of the Spring Core and then depth of the AOP. What I mean to say is you will definitely understand the internal things. So when you understand the internal things, then you can start analyze how the Spring Boot application is working, because Spring Boot application is doing a magic on top of the Spring Core container. It is definitely a magic with the auto configuration concept. In order to digest that, or in order to understand how the Spring Boot is doing the magic with auto configuration, in order to understand that, you must have to understand first object creation process. Object creation process in JVM, object creation process in Spring Core container. If you understand that, then you can easily understand the Spring Boot. So don't panic. Definitely, I'll cover the prerequisites. However, let me again back to the microservices course content. Then microservices principles and then characteristics once we discussed, then we'll discuss the microservices patterns. So you can see there were decomposition patterns, integration patterns, database patterns, event-driven patterns, observability patterns, cross-cutting patterns, resilience 4J patterns. These patterns are nowadays very, very, very important for the interviews. Not only for the interviews, also for your day-to-day application development. These patterns are very, very important. Microservices meaning you must and should have to know about these patterns. Compulsory. Microservices meaning you have to know the domain-driven design with the bounded context, microservices principles, microservices characteristics, and microservices patterns. More than enough. Then you can happily do the coding. You can happily do the implementation of the microservices architecture using any of the technology of your choice. Okay, I hope you are following me. So in microservices patterns, a lot of patterns we'll discuss. In that, decomposability, this decomposition patterns will help us how we can migrate this monolithic application to a microservices. So now we have the monolithic application with all the features, right? Customers, modules, and all. So this will be converted into a microservices architecture. Let me showcase you the architecture of the microservices. Just give me a moment. So this monolithic application, predominantly speaking, whatever these modules here we have, brand, category, customer, order, paging, product, right? So these are all the modules in a monolithic application or in a single application. These are all the modules are migrated to this model. See here, you can see the difference. Here, category is a just feature or a module in the vShopify platform backend Spring Boot application. But in the case of the microservices, the category is a separate Spring Boot application. So why we did like that? What is the reason behind that? So that is what we will learn in the Spring Boot microservices principles and microservices characteristics, right? So microservices are autonomous. Microservices are single responsibility. Microservices are single responsibility services, and microservices are autonomous. These two are the principles. Then coming to the characteristics, there were a lot. Microservices are first-class citizens. Microservices should have their own environment, runtime environment. A lot of principles are there. But you guys just need to understand, our motto is to migrate this Spring Boot application with the lot of modules inside in it to the microservices architecture. In order to migrate from this architecture model to this architecture, we need to know about the decomposition pattern. Without a pattern, we can't migrate the existing applications to the microservices architecture. So in that, decomposition pattern is very, very important. Especially we will use the strangler pattern. So interviewers nowadays are asking the coding for the strangler pattern. So you need to understand the strangler pattern. What is the strangler pattern, how we can implement the strangler pattern and all. We need to understand actually. So if you know about the strangler pattern perfectly, then you can easily migrate the existing Spring Boot applications to the microservices architecture. Okay, so that is what we're going to learn here in the microservices part. Then migration of monolithic to microservices architecture. Then problems in migrating to microservices. There were a lot of problems. So databases are there. What about databases? Right, maybe if you can see, this might be connected to customer, maybe depends on the order, or order maybe depends on the customer, or product maybe depends on the category, and the brand maybe depends on the category. So how these dependencies will be managed? Dependency in the sense, what I mean to say, database relations, right? Here only single database, but if we go to a separate application, here we have a question: do we need to use the same database as that of the monolithic application? Or do we need to use a separate database for a microservice? Which is the best pattern? Which is the best suggestion? So again, this is what we need to understand. So for that, we're going to see the database patterns. So with the understanding of the database patterns, then we will decide to a conclusion like we have to use one database per one microservices to achieve the polyglot architecture, polyglot nature of the polyglot architecture, polyglot nature to achieve, we need to use the per database, one database per one microservice. Maybe MySQL may be used for the brands, maybe used for the category, but the server may be same, but the databases are definitely different, right? So, however, we'll discuss about those, how the migration will be happened and all. We'll discuss. The only thing is what, guys, you need to attend the classes regularly with the patience. That is the only thing you need to do, because most of the guys attend only 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, then after I can see a drastical drop, and then you guys will go and then relax at home, or maybe relax, and then most of you guys will think about I will go to the videos. That is okay, but when you attend the live sessions, you will get more and more clarity. Of course, whatever we are discussing, that also will be there in the recording. I'm not denying that, but attending the live sessions will give you the definitely, it's a different feeling, right? More clarity, and you can immediately ask your questions. You can resolve it on the time. So patiently attend the classes regularly, learn the concepts in depth so that it will be your future, right? Then communication style, synchronous communication or asynchronous communication, which microservices communication style we will use. This is again interview question. Shall we use the single JVM or shared JVM? So which is the best one? And then, so these are all the problems in the microservices migration, meaning migrating the monolithic application to the microservices. These are the problems we can see. So how we will achieve the solution, how we will apply the solution is what we're going to discuss. Then features of the microservices implementation using Spring Boot 3.x. This is not Spring Boot 2.x. Spring Boot 3.x we will use and then implement the microservices. Then securing microservices with the OAuth 2.0, roles in OAuth 2.0. We'll understand the OAuth concepts. Then we'll also apply the OAuth 2, meaning JWT on top of the OAuth 2. Right, so OAuth 2 on top of the JWT, OpenID scope we will use, and then we will get the tokens and all. I'll discuss, when the time comes about the security, how it will be handled and all. Then microservices framework and then data management patterns. Data management patterns and the microservices framework, meaning how the data management patterns will help us. Like, data. Let's say one service is depending on other service. Let's say categories are required to the brand. When categories change, then brand should also be change its data, latest data, right? So how it can be handled. So how the data management will be happened in a microservices architecture. Do we have any framework such? Yes, we have a framework called Axon. So we'll use the Axon framework and then achieve this data management problem in an asynchronous fashion. So then we'll discuss about the event sourcing and CQRS, command query responsibility segregation. Then Saga, I believe I have not mentioned here Saga, right? So Saga is also here. Yeah, so Saga is also here. CQRS, command query, event sourcing and CQRS. Then distributed transactions in microservices. One moment, guys. Sorry. Just a moment. Control Z. So one more point let me add here. Distributed transactions in microservices using Saga will achieve this. Then Dockerizing the microservices and deploying the microservices in the cloud, we're going to use the AWS, and then integrating the microservices with the React.js is what we're going to see, right? So this is from the microservices course content. So any questions from here? Do you feel anything we missed here, or do you have any expectations on this course content to be a little improvised? I'm happy to take your suggestions and then, improvise this course content. Any questions for me on this one? Broker design pattern in microservices. Broker? Look, what is broker design pattern? Broker design pattern, that is not the broker design pattern. Look, so in the data management pattern, we can use the event sourcing. So for event sourcing, we will use the brokers. Like, we can use the RabbitMQ broker, or we can use the Apache Kafka broker, right? So it is not the broker pattern. It is the pattern of the event sourcing. Event sourcing is the pattern, data management pattern it is. Okay, yes, we are covering that. RabbitMQ and all we're going to use. Let me showcase you the production architecture. Just give me a moment. Let me showcase the production architecture. What is the production architecture? So all these services we may not implement, but the same production architecture we're going to implement. So let me showcase it. This is what the production architecture, right? So we're going to implement 2 to 3 services, not all these services. First, we'll implement the Spring Boot application. Then we will convert into the microservices. When converting, all these things will come, like WSO2 integrations. I'll explain user management service, category service, and then brand service. Only 3 services we will see, because developing all the services, we may not have the time. The time may not be sufficient is what my opinion. So in the user management service, we will integrate it with the MongoDB, and then the category service, we will integrate it with the MySQL DB. Then in the brand service or the product service, we'll integrate it with the DynamoDB. So I'll explain, because these are all very important. DynamoDB and then the MongoDB, these are very important. NoSQL databases, these are. So why I'm choosing, this is the MySQL and then this is the different database, this is a different database, because microservices are polyglot in nature. So every microservice will have its own execution runtime. So it may use its own database. So what my point is, in real time, whenever you will go into the real time and then whenever you will work, definitely you might need to work with the NoSQL databases as well. So you should have an experience like how you can integrate such NoSQL databases with the Spring Boot. So that's what we will implement here in the user management microservice. Of course, you can see the same in the course content as well somewhere, right? So MongoDB integration, similarly DynamoDB integration, right? And then the ELK stack integration. So whatever these integrations I mentioned here, these are nothing but this architecture only. So ELK. So ELK will implement, and then how our application will connect to ELK, right? So log stash, this will be, we will deploy in the cloud, and our application will be running our local, let us say, from our application, from our local, it will be connected to the AWS instance, which is running with the ELK stack. Then we have to see the logs in a centralized log management dashboard. And this is what the centralized distributed log management servers. So we can see the logs in the cloud. So which will be help us a lot when there were hundreds of microservices in real time. However, we'll discuss when time comes about the CLK and all. And you can see RabbitMQ. So this is what the broker we will use when we applying the event-driven mechanism. Like, CQRS is there, right? So you can see the course content here, CQRS. So in CQRS, we will use the RabbitMQ. And that is very complex in setup, not RabbitMQ. What I mean to say is CQRS along with the broker architecture is too complex. However, the same CQRS with the broker or the CQRS with the Auxan framework, we will use in the Saga as well. So these are all complex in nature actually. So that is the reason we will go for the Apache Kafka, which is very, very effective when compared to the infra or architectural what is that architectural burden or heavy architecture with this RabbitMQ and then CQRS and then the Saga, rather than going with that heavy architecture model, we'll go with the lightweight architecture model called Apache Kafka, right? So you will feel the difference once we're done with this RabbitMQ event-driven system and all. You will feel the difference actually why we are going for the Kafka and all. Then there is no monitoring. I think monitoring I have not mentioned in the course content, but distributed tracing is there. So except this, so we will implement all these things. But you can't expect more microservices, like a lot of microservices you can't expect. Only 3 microservices we will take. Okay, one is the user management service, second one is the category, third one is the products or the brands. That's it. And then API gateway we'll take, and here the React.js integrations we will see how these microservice integrations will be happening with the React.js. Okay, so this is what the final production architecture. And here you can see Redis cache is what we're going to use to put the tokens inside here. And then when the from the UI side, when the call is coming to the gateway, they have to pass the token, and that token will be verified by this gateway. If the token is valid, then only the call to the backend microservices will be allowed. Otherwise, the API gateway will deny the call and then send the either 401 access denied or 403 forbidden, right? So these kind of exceptions, it will be throw back with a valid message, the reason for not accepting the request. Then these guys have to again relog in maybe, or they have to renew the token, or they go for the token management capabilities and all, right? So this is what the final end target architecture we're gonna achieve. And here in the place of WSO2, maybe I'll go with the key cloak. Maybe I'll go with the key cloak, not with the WSO2. Maybe I'll go with the key cloak for your brand, for your this SBMS Spring Boot microservices batch. I'll go with the key cloak, but for the real-time project batch, I'll go with the WSO2. Okay, hope you got the concept of it. Now let me go and then read your questions. Yeah, when we say Saga, basically when we say Saga, we will see actually Saga meaning only. Okay, someone asked me a question, Alok, choreography based Saga or orchestration based Saga? Choreography based Saga, no one will use in the real time. Alok will go with the orchestration based Saga, not choreography based Saga. Okay, only orchestration, because orchestration based Saga is the real Saga implementation. Choreography based Saga is nothing but again CQRS implementation, which can't gives us the compensating transactions when the transaction will be failure. So that feature we can't get with the choreography based Saga. Hence we'll go with the orchestration based Saga. Right? Can we use Angular? No, I'm using the React.js. If you already familiar with the Angular, yes, you can go and then integrate these services with the Angular. No matter whatever the UI is, the data is important, right? So these are just a painting frameworks. These painting frameworks requires the data. So the state how these are managing and how the state is getting back from the services is very important. So no matter whether you use mobile client or POS client or Angular or React, whatever you want, you can use. But I will go with the React.js. Okay, right. Any questions for me? Where we can get the detailed course content and PPT. The detailed course content and PPTs will be shared to your email ID by the backend team. And once you enrolled, then we will have a classroom where all the documents will be maintained. I believe yesterday only I have shown this, meaning yesterday as well I have shown this. Again, I'm showcasing. So this is where you can get all the documentations and all. Okay, course content, detailed course content, documentation and all. But meantime, I will also ask the backend team to send you this course content documents. Fine. So microservices concept, meaning content is clear, I believe, for all of you. Then we'll go for the Spring Cloud concepts, Spring Cloud. But most of the Spring Cloud content is covered as part of the microservices pattern. But just let me showcase you the Spring Cloud content as well. So this is the Spring Cloud content. So we'll go with the config server. So where is config server in our architecture? So if you can see, here is the config server. Probably You can see this one where I can reduce. Yeah, you can see here. This is the config server. So config server and then the service discovery. So this is the Eureka service discovery. And then we're going to see the resilience 4J. So we will apply the resilience 4J here, but not the Netflix resilience 4J. This is the resilience 4J organization provided it. So we will use that one. And then no historics actually, no historic circuit breaker. It is a circuit breaker of resilience 4J. It is a circuit breaker of the fallback mechanism and all, but there is no historics dashboard. And Joule, there is no Joule proxy API gateway. We'll use the Spring Cloud API gateway. This content is a little older one, but the same, you can just see this one, microservices API gateway. So here is the API gateway. We will implement it with the Spring Cloud. And then microservices communication, we will use the Fiend. Yes, we have one use case. This product service requires the data from the category service. In order to establish that communication, we will use the Fiend client. Then microservices tracing. Yes, sleuth we will use. And then actually sleuth is deprecated now. In the place of sleuth, micrometer given from the Spring Boot 3.x onwards. So we will use the micrometer for the distributed tracing along with the Jipkin. Okay, so that means all these Spring Cloud concepts are covering as part of our implementations here. And of course, patterns also covering the same one. Microservices patterns also will cover these Spring Cloud components, right? That's all I believe from the course content point of view, especially Spring Boot, microservices, and then Spring Cloud course content point of view. And there is a Docker content and then the security content as well, but we can discuss that security and then Docker content later. And tomorrow let us start the prerequisites. That means tomorrow let us start this object creation process, understanding the memory utilization process, thread processing, and these prerequisite concepts let us start tomorrow. And then probably we'll go with the Spring Core. Subsequently, we'll start with the Spring Core. So let us start it now. Meaning not now, but tomorrow. Any questions? Yeah, debugging. Debugging is very tough if you can cover tools for debugging and how to debug Spring application, especially when multiple microservices run. So Jipkin is for what? Jipkin is for debugging the communication. Here, debug term will come in two ways actually. Debugging the source code, debugging the microservices communication. For debugging the microservices communication, we have the Jipkin and we have the micrometer, right? Where we can use it for the tracing. And again, debugging the source code, however, we will do it because once I implemented the code, I can showcase the code. I can put it in the debug mode and then I can showcase it so that you guys can understand it. Fine. So any more questions? Fiend client is used for... The Fiend client is used for establishing synchronous communication or asynchronous communication, or both the types. I think, Alok, you attended interviews and then asking these questions here, right? Probably. So Fiend client is for the synchronous communication, not for asynchronous. For asynchronous communication, we have to go with the event-driven mechanism. That means either CQRS, or if you want the event-driven communication with the transaction support, go for the Saga. But Fiend client is for what? For the synchronous communication, not asynchronous. And event-driven sourcing, event sourcing is what for what? Asynchronous communication. Right. Okay. Then how many days this course completed?
Narsi, so you mentioned here like Spring AOP, you will cover up. As part of the project, anyhow, we are, you will show the use cases of Spring AOP and...
Okay, actually, we're going to use this micrometer, right? I mean to say, in this architecture, we're going to integrate our microservices with these ELK and all, correct? And we're going to implement the resilience 4J. So this resilience 4J internally using the AOP a lot. So how it is using or what concepts of the AOP it is using. If we know what is AOP and then what are the concepts of the AOP, then we can easily understand this resilience 4J. So that is the point, meaning we don't have any specific use case, but the resilience 4J and then the micrometer, these are all internally using the AOP. So if we know the AOP, then we can easily understand the micrometer functionality. Got it?
Yes, Narsi, I got it. And I joined in late today. Actually, my query is like, as part of the databases, what are the databases we are using here?
Just now I told na, MySQL DB, MongoDB, and then DynamoDB. 3 databases.
Okay. And this order and payment service, this will not be implemented?
Not be implemented, because this is more conceptual course, right? Not the real-time project course. So only 3 services we will take, and on top of the 3 services, we will cover all the concepts. Here, my primary focus is to complete the concept, not to complete, the business functionality or something else. I want to, meaning cover the business functionality, but not to extend level, to a certain level with all the concepts included there. That is what my motto. Fine.
Yes, Narsi, got you. Thank you.
Yeah. So has an example project also included in this course by applying the concept? Yes, that is what I'm saying. So I just have shown you the course, the code what we implemented, right? So similarly, we will take this as our base project. From this base project, we will create one redesigning project, and then we will implement it, because base design project have the few limitations, and it is too older version of the Spring Boot we are using. So I think we are using the one moment. We are using it is the multi-modular project, and we are using 2.4.1. So which is little older than the 2.7.1, which is the last version of before releasing this Spring Boot 3.x. However, this is a huge project. So implementing this project is not possible, but we'll take few use cases from here, and then we will start building our own application. That is the concept, right? Timings will be 9 p.m. regularly. Are you also conducting real-time project based on Spring Boot microservices? Yes, which started along with this batch as well. Meaning, yesterday we started the real-time project in the morning hours, like 8:15 a.m. IST. And REST API knowledge is required. Bhushan, REST API knowledge is 100% required, because all the microservices are REST APIs, but not all REST APIs are microservices. However, if you can see here, I will cover REST API design as well. REST API design at the professional level, not with the simple get all customers, get all students. No, not that even. So professional level, documenting the REST APIs, securing the REST APIs, monitoring the REST APIs, versioning the REST APIs, monetization of the REST APIs. There were a lot of concepts around it, and REST guidelines, REST principles. So this is what I'm going to cover here. Once I completed the REST API concepts discussion, 100% you will be at a professional level. Okay, I can give that assurance. Don't worry about it. Yes, how can I get the details about that? Which one, Abhishek? Are you also conducting? Yeah, real-time project, right? You just talk to the backend team. They will share the details and all. Yeah. Any more questions for me? I think a lot of questions came on my face when I started. What's course duration? I think I have covered. It is 75 days as the maximum, and then 60 days as the minimum. Can you please share the file? The files will be shared with the backend team to you via email. They'll send. Spring React Native will not be covered. Yes, that is, I'm not guaranteed at this moment, but the Spring Cloud Gateway is the reactive component. So in order to work with the Spring Cloud Gateway, we need to definitely implement the, we need to apply the reactive programming here. So, but in order to apply the reactive programming, again, we need to go back and then see the Java 8 features and all. That is what I'm suggesting all of you guys to go with the Java 8 concepts and then come back here. So, however, we definitely will use the reactive programming here. Fine. Yeah. In order to attend the real-time project, any prerequisite required? Yeah. Spring Boot microservices, at least Spring Boot is required. Without Spring Boot, it is difficult. Okay. Yeah, I think I have covered almost all the questions. Do we get the recordings videos? Obviously, every day, once the class is completed, we are completing the classes little late night, right? So the video you can expect in the next day by the 12 p.m. Videos will be shared to your drive directly. Okay. So when is the next batch of same courses starting? Raghu, maybe it's not right immediately. Maybe it may in the future, but definitely I can say coming 3-4 months, it's not possible to start again a new batch. How many days does this recorded videos are accessible? Into 2 times. Let's say your course will be completed in 75 days, then again 75 days, the access will be there. If your course will be completed in 100 days, then you will get the access for the 100 days, right? I think I have covered all the questions. Kubernetes is not covered here. Only Docker will be covered. No Kubernetes. What else? RBAC. Yes, we're going to cover RBAC and then ABAC. Role-based access control, attribute-based access control we'll cover. Okay. So yeah, pre-authorized annotation, post-authorized, and then the custom permissions evaluator implementations and all we'll see. RBAC and then ABAC will be covered. In-memory DB, yes, H2 database will use. Yeah, I think all the questions I have covered. Sir, I'm Narendra. I'm having only knowledge on Java only. Hey, don't worry, Narendra. So Java knowledge is good enough. Meaning I can cover rest of the things. So don't worry. Java knowledge is enough to attend this course. Will you explain, bro? I think I have answered this. And yeah, that's all, guys. So if you feel it will be helpful for you, then you can go and then start your, enrollment process and all. Yeah, scheduling and then batching also will be there. So, Spring Boot, how the scheduling will be there and how the batch framework will be there implemented in Spring Boot. So yeah, those are all there in the course content. Yes, we'll cover it. PPTs I won't share. PPTs are for me and the Word documents only I will share. Those Word documents for you. Okay, PPTs are for me. And any more questions? Yeah, sir, please suggest resources for LLD if possible. Low level design, you mean to say LLD? See, no one is now focusing more onto this low level designs nowadays, at least, because everyone is now having the agile process in place. Agile process don't give you that much of flexibility to go with and then do the LLD. I believe LLD is no one is using. But yes, if you want to know how we can do the LLD part and all, that is a different story. We need to know the software engineering process like UML diagrams and all. So it's a different process, but no one is using nowadays LLDs and all. At least HLD will be there, but LLD is not required. At least with the experience what I faced, I'm saying I totally opposite to this LLD and all. Rather than I can start directly the implementation, and then maybe I can take it from there, because the issue tracking we are following the agile methodology. In agile methodology, everything will be tracked, right? And the tasks and tickets will be assigned. So each and every ticket will get clarified. Then you can start the implementation. So it's a not overall LLD, but maybe a task specific, not LLD, I can say maybe some kind of HLD, high level design we may do. However, yes, I have 11.5 years of experience, Alok, and I'm working as an associate architect in a product engineering company. Okay, can I claim to have worked in microservices after this course? 100%, Suchian. You can confidently claim that you are the professional in microservices implementations, not even beginner, not even mediator, medium. So you will be at a professional level. Okay, what will be the duration of the real-time project? That is, again, real-time project is also 75 days. What will be the minimum salary package we can expect after completing this course? Yeah, this is a typical question for me, because there are 2 types of candidates here, right? Maybe the candidates who are already working in real industry, maybe with the less packages, they want to accelerate their career with the most, more packages. Then you can you can ask them, you can demand them. Let's say if your CTC is 3 lakhs or 5 lakhs, you can demand it to 3 times. Like, if your CTC is 3 lakhs, you can demand 10 lakhs. If your CTC is 5 lakhs, you can demand 15 lakhs. No matter whether they will give or not, that is secondary, but you can demand it to 3 times. That is what the market is now happening. In the market, it is now happening. If they have the budget, they will give. Otherwise, they'll say, no, I don't have the budget. I can give so and so only. If it is okay for you, you can go and then attend interview. But yes, into 3 times you can claim or you can ask them. Okay, what would be the weekend timing? Weekend timing, again, we'll discuss about the weekend timing, Suraj, because weekend is absolutely the mutual agreement of all the folks attending the classes and all. So it is the concurrent decision we will take. Right now, I can't tell, but when we start and then go on, then collidely we'll take the decision on weekends when we will start and then when we will end. Okay. Yeah, I'll understand Hindi thoda, not full. Meaning I'm very utter in Hindi. I can understand, but I can't speak. However, Sherin, Kafka and RabbitMQ also included in this course. Yes, Kafka and RabbitMQ integrations. Sherin, I'm speaking very wisely. Kafka and RabbitMQ integrations will be covered. Integrations in the sense, I'll give the background of what is Kafka, the core concepts of the Kafka. Kafka we can divide into three levels. Level 1, beginner level. Level 2, medium level. Level 3, advanced level. So I can cover the beginner level Kafka, not the medium level or advanced level, because Kafka itself is a 30 days course. So I can't cover all the 30 days content inside your batch, right? So, but integrations we will do. Yes. Yeah. Any more questions? That's all from my side. Any more questions for me?
So, sir, I just have one last question.
Yep.
So my course training and course content is overlapping with another batch, which could finish in another 10 days. So is that okay? Or will another batch start very soon? Or will I be able to cope up with this videos for the next 10 days? Like any advice on that?
Yeah, I can guarantee that if you follow the videos regularly, at least for the coming 10 days, in 100% you will cope up. But it depends on whether you will be able to spend the time or not. If you don't able to spend the time, at least cover in the weekends. But if you complete the videos, if you completely follow the 10 days videos or maybe 15 days, then 100% you can come back and then join. You can cope up. Okay. Yeah. Any more questions?
Sir. So we have lifetime access to the videos, right?
No lifetime. That's what I'm telling. No lifetime. It is into 2 times. For example, our course content duration is 75 days. The videos will be available for 75 days plus next 75 days as well. Let us say we have not completed in 75 days. Let's say we have completed in 100 days. Then from the date of completion, next 100 days, your videos will be available. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in the next 10 days, the last topic of CoreJava will finish, that is collection. So my CoreJava finishes in 10 days. So that's okay. I can cope up, right? I don't know any advanced Java. I just know CoreJava.
That's okay. That's okay. Because, in the beginning, what we will discuss is probably tomorrow we'll start understanding this memory utilizations and then the object-oriented concepts along with the software designing concepts. So this you can easily understand. This may take 2 to 3 days. And then we'll start the Spring Core. So once you understand, you follow this, then you can easily understand the Spring Core as well. So it won't be a problem, I believe. You can happily go through them. Okay, right. So IDE, we will use the STS, Spring Tool Suite IDE we will use. Of course, that is up to your choice. If you guys are familiar with the IntelliJ, you can go with the IntelliJ. Personally, I will prefer IntelliJ. But few members are coming from the basic background, right? They are familiar with the Eclipse. So STS is similar to the Eclipse one. In fact, on top of the Eclipse it was. So that's the reason I'm using the STS. But my favorite IDE is definitely IntelliJ. Okay, right.
All right, sir. That would be amazing that I've answered all my questions. I mean, I'm like a spoon feeding kind of person. So I'm a lazy bastard. So if you can spoon feed, I'll be very happy.
Oh no, definitely, the learning side, we should be always to be like that only. Then only we'll get the insights of each and every point. So maybe, no one is master here, right? So even I'll go back and refer maybe 2 to 3 books and then learn something and then come back. Maybe I can learn from my project and then come back and then telling here. So no one is master here. We are all learners always. Okay.
Yeah. Because what I see on the screen right now is very scary for me, to be very honest. I don't understand even a bit.
That's true. That's true. I mean, most of the folks, don't understand what is this and all. My intention is also not to scare you, but my intention is to show you the reality. So the reality will be like this only. If I draw something, 2 to 3 boxes, that is not the reality. So we have to come to this level. So we will definitely come to this level when we regularly follow the courses, meaning when we regularly, follow the videos or attending the sessions and all. One fine day we'll come to this level. So just imagine if we reaches to this level, how it will be, right? You can demand,
Sure, sir.
can demand the market, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
So what else? I think I have covered all your questions and all, right? Okay, folks. So tomorrow, let us start a very interesting concept for me, and then very important concept: object creation process, memory utilization. So far, have you seen visually, objects, how they will create or where they will create? Have you seen? I have not seen visually. Don't expect from me, but I'm out of curiosity because you guys are mostly from the real-time experts, right? So do you have any such tool with you to see the object creation process in the JVM? I don't think I have not seen, but I'll try to showcase you something probably tomorrow or day after tomorrow. Okay. So this is really interesting concepts. Don't miss, guys. Of course, in the demos only I'll cover this, but don't miss it. Yep. That's all from my side. I think it's already 10. So thank you so much, for attending the course and then making it wonderful session. And hopefully see you tomorrow. And then let's discuss these very important concepts. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much.